Hey Dwight, Anthony here. I hope all's well. I hope you had a great weekend and last week. Apologize for the delay getting back to you on this. I had a handful of projects and things moving around in my world, and I wanted to make sure that I provided enough quality time and attention to what I looked over or am looking over for your website with DLC, just to make sure that I have a full understanding of what you need and what the checkboxes are as far as the scoping. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure that I kind of provided you the quality that I think that you deserve. Now, I've got somewhat of a formal proposal process, and I don't want to throw you in that whole thing, but I did go ahead and spin up basically an online proposal for me to be able to show you some options that I think would be useful for consideration as far as the DLC revamp. And yeah, just wanted to give you kind of more of a hands-on look and feel of what this could look like if we did the work together. So my process is somewhat non-traditional. I don't do like a PDF type of thing. I've got a visual here. So I'm going to get myself minimized and we'll just go ahead and walk through it. So what you'll want to do is to navigate over to mkswebdesign/proposal/design-land-collaborative. And that's going to get you then to this page right here. Now, usually I'll replace the video that you're seeing right now with this section. And so over time, this is going to change. But you can go ahead and just scroll down a little bit and you're going to find this first little high-arching summary of what I feel like after I've had time to look over the current website, look over the inner workings of what I can tell how it's been designed and the architecture of it, and then try to figure out like what could this look like compared to some of the work that we've done and some of the resources that we have. So generally, this is really high-arching. You can disregard this. I won't read it verbatim because I know you know how to read really great. And so it's just going to be made sure that it's clean and modern. We use WordPress as far as a scalable resource. WordPress is a open source platform that powers almost about 40% of the internet, which ranges from small mom and pop companies all the way to Fortune 500 companies. And so it really is a diverse platform that I think gives everything that we need and a lot more. We'll make sure that it's simple yet intuitive to navigate. And so that's really going to be the forefront of the focus, is ensuring that your portfolio is able to be navigated easily, that it is good on mobile responsiveness especially, and that people can really find and validate what your work is and ensure that they can navigate the website efficiently. And so that's going to be a forefront. Also making sure that SEO is a focus. I firmly believe that we're building websites to have a strategic purpose. We can have the most beautiful business card or sales brochure that we want in the world, but if we leave it at home and don't hand it out, it doesn't do anything for us. It just stays there at home. And so making sure that this is transparent and scalable and also searchable from search engine and from AI, I think is really important. And then it can grow with you, right? It's going to be scalable. So you can log in, you can update portfolio items, you can change text. Something that I'm not sure if you have access to. After I did some digging on the current architecture of the website, it's not coded in WordPress. It's actually coded in Bootcamp and a few other unique tools. And so I think that just editing it might be a challenge. That's just my guess. I'm not entirely sure. But nonetheless, we'll scroll down here a little bit. And this is just a not so necessarily curated list of some of the work that we've done. It just kind of auto-populates in here. So I didn't pick these for any specific reason, but you can just hover over any of these and you can select one if you wanted to learn a little bit more. And once you select one, it opens up in a new tab. You'll then get a real high-arching summary of what the project is. And then most of these will have this little black icon that you can click on and you can look at the actual live website as it stands and browse around and just see kind of how it looks and feels. And so like Innovate 24 was one that was created last year. It's a really nice and modern website. We tried to do a upfront, really just making sure it's modern, right? This is supposed to be a different style of site and having kind of like a startup feel, because that's really what they're focusing on, is startups and establishing that. And so it gives a good example, I think, of some of the animations and some of the techniques that we can do. But nonetheless, if you go ahead and we'll close these, you can select any of these other ones if you want, or you can click on View Portfolio. And this little button will then take you to the portfolio side, which you can scroll through. And you won't be surprised in some of them that we see, right? Like we'll have DDLC on here and a couple others. And so yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. You may have seen some of this stuff before, or maybe not. But if you're interested, browse around some of the work and you can kind of take a look. Most of what I wanted to provide this video, though, is to be able to show you some of the kind of inner working that I see the current website has, maybe the opportunities we have to expand, and then giving you some examples of what I've seen before and also what I have capacity to be able to scale upwards to. And so let me go ahead and get the website pulled over here. I think that you're right. Just generally speaking, there's a handful of areas that we'll want to focus on in order to improve. Right here, we've got like these black bars that I would wish that we could span it all the way to full width, and perhaps it would cascade left to right, or maybe up and down, or we could zoom it and we could actually have it 100% width or 120 and then zoom in to 100, vice versa. We've got a handful of techniques to be able to do something like that. In fact, if we open up Global Cheer Dance, that's one that we've got that we went ahead and created just some kind of background focus. You'll see that it just kind of blends and it just transitions as there's just more interaction. And let's see, City of Blue Rapids is another one that I can think of. This is just off the top of my head that will provide more of a interactive display to be able to scroll through these options. Now, they can actually scale inward, they can zoom out, we can do a lot of different things. Photos are going to be really important, I think, with the type of project that you have and the way that we represent everything. So that's going to be really important. Also, mobile responsiveness. And now I use a tool that is able to simulate mobile responsiveness. But one thing that I've noticed is that there is just a slight issue with our SSL certificate. You can see right here on the very top left, it's got that little icon right there that says issue. Well, it's actually having some issues with loading. One thing I wanted to show you in my video is some examples of how we can stress test these environments. And you can see right here, we've got some issues loading the site. Really, that's just because of the SSL certificate. You see it says HTTP right there instead of HTTPS. The S would stand for secure. And so if we went to, say, DDLC rentals or DDLC investments, and we were to inspect the site and we get here, then we'll actually see that we've got a S in there, that HTTPS, and that's of utmost importance to make sure that it is secure, but also that it loads in professional tools, which you can see we're having some issues with it being able to scale on this end. So one of those things I wanted to show you, but nonetheless, I think that you're aware that, excuse me, from a mobile responsive end, we'll want to focus on how it looks like on a cell phone and on a tablet, and ensuring that it is cross-device friendly to be able to really scale this thing outwards and make sure that everyone can see it, not just a select amount of people. Now, the portfolio is an interesting section. So it does provide the opportunity for people to be able to navigate around on the images, and it shows the image on the left, and then you can kind of see what you're doing on the right-hand side. I do like the actual idea here of being able to review the image and then see what it has, for the location. So one thing that I actually did see here, bear with me for a second. I apologize, I had to take a drink for a moment. I had a frog in my throat, and typically I think I would be able to do this more efficiently, so I'm glad that we know each other, and you're like, oh, look at this guy, that he's choking up. But generally speaking, I think that this is a good concept to be able to show the location and then break this down by subsections and then select that subsection and go into that project based on those areas. And so just some ideas of how we could do that. We could go ahead and explore, say, perhaps a visual map. So we've done that here with Sharp Manufacturing. This is a website that we went ahead and built early this year. So it was like January, February of 2025. So it would have been, I guess, a year ago. We did all the content, got all the video, did all the pictures, drone work was ours, did all of these. But they have this dealer search right here that we've integrated a integrated map. So we can actually select these areas, be able to view more details. This is really for dealer searching, so people could be able to have basically a repository of these locations for dealers. But we can also just kind of span around. It updates the list on the left, it gives directions. This button, though, can change very easily to view portfolio item or learn more or select. And so we could actually have an integrated map here to be able to browse around. I did find one, though, on the website in order to be able to see that. I'm having some issues with it loading, but I believe that it was under the contact section, and then there was a place where maybe it was on somewhere on here, there was a section that had a map integrated, and you could actually select and browse around on some of the map little pings. Now, it wasn't necessarily loading at the time that I was looking at it. Here it is, it's project map. There we go. And so I had some issues just with it loading in the first place. Again, maybe these are some things that you're very well aware of, but this is something that we could possibly use to be able to display some of the areas. I personally use this on my own work. So if we get over here to under Get Started in a Location Map, I've actually isolated Kansas, but we could put any part of a locality. We could do a whole continent, we can do a whole state, we can do a region, whatever we want to, a territory. And in this, we can actually have allowed to select the area and then navigate to a designated section. And perhaps it's a big, it could be like 3 or 4 in one spot. Speaking of which, one that I actually didn't even think of is there is a website called kansasmurals.com. And this is actually a passion project of mine. We've got this murals map right here that we're able to browse around and see. Now you can tell that some locations have 2, 3, and maybe even 1, which that would be 1 right there. And it would show you the map. However, if you select 2, it zooms in so you can see, okay, what 2 are we talking about? There's 1 and then there's 2. Now zoomed in at a very close level as far as zooming into the ground, but we zoom out and we keep going. And then we're able to get back to say 17, and we can see all 17 dots around this location. So here's 1, there's 6 in this tiny little block. And so you can see these are all murals kind of cascading down the this block of Topeka. So I think it's a nice way for us to be able to create this interactiveness, to be able to search around and find things. I didn't think of that before I started the video, and so I'm glad that that was one that came to mind. But yeah, I think that there's a handful of different ways that we can approach the portfolio feel as far as both the map and then also on your project end to have, say, integrated images. Now, this image isn't working necessarily right at this exact moment, but I will show you one that's actually under development. And so here at atstilldo.com, it is a forefront. It's a retired veteran doctor, and he's actually writing a book, which we're trying to finish up in production. I'm helping him with some digital assets. And that's kind of a side note, but we do have this integration that we're working on. It's not live yet, but I figure this is a nice time to show you. We're trying to create an interactive map that will allow us to be able to hover over elements and tell stories. And so you can see that you can select here. We can just, this is just tests. So we've got this little dummy placer text, which is Latin, and really just to be able to show off some of the techniques on how we're going to approach this. Probably is not the right way executed in this exact moment on how we would want to, but we might be able to illustrate our own map that we custom illustrate, and then we have these hotspots, that's what I would call these, to then show being able to go to those designated pages or portfolio items. And so definitely have some ideas on how we can execute the same exact strategy that we see here, nonetheless being able to also make sure that it's functional and that it's working. It could very well be something technical on my end, but my suspicion is this HTTPS and some of the issues that the SSL certificate is providing. It could be a handful of different things, so I won't necessarily take full responsibility off of my end. Maybe it's something on mine. There's a couple other things that I noticed, but we would want to make sure that this is, we have a language compatibility. So I see that we've got Chinese translation right here, and we would make sure that we do something, say, with like the Manhattan Free Clinic. We've got English, but then if we select over to Spanish, then it dynamically just changes everything on the entire site. We also have a designated page explicitly for different languages on this site. It really just matters on how we want to focus on this and how important that part is. But nonetheless, we will use Google Translate or some other integrated method to be able to provide that translation service. So then we can have an efficient way to go back and forth and update those details. Another one that I just thought of was, it's just photography based, and so I figured you'd have some basic appreciation of this. This is a website that I built for a colleague of mine. So he does professional photography. I actually rely on him when there's local photography here and around Kansas to collaborate and provide that for services for me. And so we can see how we've kind of positioned this, being able to browse around and explore all of these areas. We also then can view the actual services. And so learning more about not only the photos or the portfolio, but then being able to go in explicitly to these sections and then have designated areas to be able to browse further. They kind of get cross-connected, and ultimately they're all pushing towards our call to action, which is get started or require more, request more information. Sometimes people do free quote, contact us, or get more details, whatever you want to call it, right? There's just a lot of different ways we can position that. And then one other thought that I had was for the mapping standpoints. BioWrap is a grant-funded project through K-State, but also they're endorsed by a couple different places like Nebraska, Dakota, South Dakota, and then it's an NSF-funded project. So they've got their own location structure if we get to about, and then we scroll down here. This is just a nice little tool, I think, that just represents how we can provide maybe on a larger scale, different maps, different systems. It's just a different way to represent this information. So yeah, it's just different ideas on what we can do. But nonetheless, I think that there's a handful of ways to be able to position this. Some of the stuff that I think is missing, primarily we have a responsiveness issue from mobile responsiveness. It doesn't scale appropriately when I have it able to be pulled up from a cell phone device. So that can be an issue. So one of the things that I wanted to at least take a look at would be SEO structure. So if we take a look right here, we can actually inspect and see that our meta title and meta description, it looks okay. But then once we get into our header structure, you can see that it's kind of non-existent. This is something really important for our header information to be able to qualify and rank what the website is trying to go for. So if we go to any of these here on the portfolio, in fact, we'll just jump over here to the first one and get to Coldwell Banker. We do a lot of work with Coldwell Banker, and this is actually where we've met before. It's one of my remote offices that we've got here. Actually, it is switched over to Real Estate Advisors. So this one right here, this is the same exact site. We can scroll over and inspect our meta information. We got a meta title and meta description. And then we can see here that here's our meta header structures. And we don't have anything on our current website, whereas this is all the information we're trying to rank for and provide details to both search engine optimization for Google, but also generative engine optimization, which is AI based. So anything that ChatGPT or those type of areas are pulling information. We have to have these technicals there to be able to pull the information and have it visible on the on these search results. And so really important, I think, and something super valuable to be able to just reflect and show your way. So yeah, anyway, I think that that's a handful of things. I don't want to take too much of your time, but if we scroll down here further, this is a lot of the stuff we already talked about. Mobile responsiveness, we can do cool map stuff. This is really just, it's already in here, and it's usually something I provide and talk about. Pricing wise, as far as what I think really is we're going to look at, none of my projects really go any smaller or lower than 5,000. And so I think that that's where we could keep it potentially. We can keep it at about 5,500. And this right here, if we scroll down a little bit, it will show us what the breakdown of that looks like. So a lot of it's the core design, up to 25 pages. And I think that that would encompass most of our portfolio, but there's wiggle room to be able to make sure that that works. And then we can also make sure that some of this is just baseline stuff, right? So we have to have our UX in here. There's allotment for that. Our SEO configuration, that's the baseline. Same thing with content. I left nothing in there for photo and video because it'd be quite challenging for me to be able to make a trip over there. However, if there's room, I mean, we can always make a discussion on what that looks like. But I just don't think that that's something valuable to add in here. So that's really what I think our baseline kind of proposed package would look like. And it would be half up front and then half at the end for what we're looking at here. Now, option 2 is what I would recommend. These two, I always leave an option 3 just to be able to show like what are some of the scalable resources if we didn't talk about things. I don't really humor anything right here. I think these are the two packages, so to speak, that we could look from a design standpoint. But the option 2 here has a little bit of more metric standpoint for us to be able to do some initial research, figure out where we're trying to go, what are some of our qualifying points, what are our keywords that have been, where do we want to go when we go live. So just kind of a standard pre-launch metric. And then from the design standpoint, I added in some advanced graphic design. I think that would be useful when we're talking about, say, integrating a map system and having over sections and having it change and manipulate. I do think that that's going to take more time, so that's where that advanced graphic design would come into play to be able to show some advanced map functionality or some advanced hotspot functionality that we already saw on your site and that I showed you on a few others. From a UX standpoint, this advanced navigation is really going to just improve our navigation up here on the top header. So it's not just 4 links, but perhaps we have drop downs, perhaps we have floating buttons all the time, or something that will allow a call to action to pop up, something that just encourages better navigation from the standard navigation. And so I do think that we have a handful of opportunities to be able to prove that. So that's that recommendation there. SEO configuration, again, more pre-launch metrics to be able to do that research with our go live, and also to see like where do we want to head. So that's where we have pre-launch SEO audit. And then, excuse me, a messaging strategy potentially. I don't know if that's really going to be needed. And so I guess I throw out this with a disclaimer that if you want to a la carte this and say move one over and say, no, I don't want this, but maybe we should do that. You let me know what you see is most useful, and then I could go ahead and workshop this up and make sure that it's a little different than what I'm proposing here and what you see. And then at the bottom here, everything's the same. It takes time for us to be able to make it go live, although we don't need user testing because we don't have user login, credentialing, or anything like that. So yeah, I think option 1 and option 2 are really kind of where I'm sitting at as far as making sure that you get the highest quality, it's super polished, it's maintainable, it's all the stuff that you want. And yeah, I mean, I just love to do work with you. So I think that it would be a super awesome project to be able to get done. If we scroll down here to the very bottom, then there is just some details that you likely already know. I can host it, and so we would have the hosting fee. We don't need this. This is optional, so there's nothing additional that we need from advanced security because we don't have people logging in. And then if we end up doing constant maintenance and work, this is something maybe for the DDLC side of things. We could always have a little bit of a retainer, but it's just kind of up to you. It's most of the time we just don't hear from each other, and then in like 3 or 6 or 9 months, it's suddenly like, hey, let's do some work. And I think that that's a little bit better from a cost effectiveness rather than like a retainer. But hey, totally something that we can humor and figure out if that's what you want to do. And I like to discount the hourly rate just because it makes things easier on both of us is what it does. And then that's about it. That's the bottom of my little proposal. I tried to keep this short and sweet and without any kind of over splurging in my explanation of things. And so I appreciate your time because the time is very valuable. Let me know if this is useful or if you have any other further questions, and perhaps we just set a time to Zoom, or if you're in town, we can sit down and just go over things more in person over some coffee, or we can meet up. But I'm definitely excited and would love to do this work with you. I think that there's a handful of ideas that I can bring from other projects in a hybrid of different approaches that I have and have not used before, that we could come up with something really great and functional and user-friendly where you can actually do some of the edits yourself. So definitely let me know what you think, and look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, thanks, Dwight.